Hello and welcome everyone. My name is, can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Perfect. Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Amanda Nose. I'm the President and VP of Partnerships and Sponsorships for the PWN Nice Côte d'Azur Network. And we would like to welcome to everybody who's joined us here in locally on the Côte d'Azur and also from places that are very far away, including some of our other city networks and even as far as Australia. So tonight, what we have is really an incredible lineup of speakers and panelists for each of our three topic areas. So I would like to thank our speakers for taking the time to join us and to share their knowledge. And also to thank our partners, our corporate partner Amadeus, our business school partner EDEC, and also the Centre for Optimism from Australia, who will be leading Pillar 3. And also, I would like to start with a very big thank you to our board members and our organisers who have really worked hard to put together this event, especially Tatiana, who has done an amazing job. So a quick explanation of the event that I'll go into a little bit later is our idea was to have an event that would be quick. We didn't want to have an event which would be long presentations, but just quick presentations where people could pick up knowledge, then discussions with a panel discussion with questions for the audience, because even though we're virtual, we wanted it to be interactive. And then, of course, a networking event at the end. So this is essentially the structure. This is our second year of doing a virtual business expo. We started this project last year when everybody was locked down, and we wanted to give our partners and our members an ability to present their businesses and their knowledge and to interact with each other. Next year is the 20th anniversary of the Professional Women's Network down here on the Côte d'Azur. So what we're planning for that is a hybrid event. So hopefully we'll all be together in person, and for people who cannot come, they'll be able to watch it remotely. So just a quick explanation of who we are as a group. So the Professional Women's Network is a global network of professionals, and our goal is to advance gender balanced leadership. This particular network is the Nice Côte d'Azur network because it's a global organization, and then there's different regions have their own city networks. And one of the nice things about PWN is if you're a member, you can attend events from global and also any city network all over the world where there is a city network. Our members are a mix of people from people who work for large corporations, small corporations, to entrepreneurs, to students, to retirees who are interested in this topic and want to give back, and also nonprofit organizations. So in a nutshell, what we do is we support women to learn, to develop, to be able to network with other people, both locally and when they're traveling around the world. And one thing that's very key about PWN is we're an all-volunteer network. The people who do this do it because they believe in our mission. And that's very important because we have some very interesting events and things that people can do in our network, and it's all done by volunteers. So I give a pitch. Don't hesitate to join us and to participate. If you would like to be a member, you can contact our membership at pwnice.net. But I'd also like to quickly tell you of some of the things that we do, which we've had feedback is helpful both for our corporate members and our entrepreneurial members, and indeed our students as well. So one of the things we launched a few years ago was a mentoring program. This is really quite excellent for people who are trying to build their business or advance in their careers to the next level. As part of premium membership, which costs 110 euros a year, we that every person has the right to have 10 one-on-one, 1 hour long mentoring sessions with a mentor who's matched to them according to what their goals and ambitions are. We also have partnerships with various universities, corporations, and other associations. For example, edX offers a 20% discount to our members for doing their MBA program. And edX also gives us many opportunities with their students to interact and to have volunteers. So this is a nice association for us. We also have lunches and after work meetings. We originally, before COVID, we had them in Monaco, in Nice, and in Sophia Antipolis. But of course, with COVID, we had to switch to virtual. We moved everything to virtual within a month of lockdown happening. And now slowly, we're moving back to having in-person events. But feedback we got was some members really liked the virtual events because they could attend more and they didn't have to go from one end of the coast to the other. So as going forward, we'll have both virtual events and we'll also have in-person events. The other thing that we do is we have quite in-depth learning workshops and programs because our members want to develop both personally and in their careers, in their businesses. These are also provided by PWN Global. So as a member, for example, you could join their virtual entrepreneurship program, which is quite an in-depth program. And there's many other ones as well on a wide variety of topics, from technical topics to diversity, equity and inclusion topics, emotional intelligence, entrepreneurship, etc. So they usually come out as monthly virtual webinars. We also have podcasts, which people can download and listen to. And then because, you know, we like to have fun as well, we don't just all work and no play. We do have social activities. We have 2 big celebration parties, which are usually subsidized by PWN, one in summer and one as a holiday party towards the end of the year. We also have a mentor and mentee meetup, which is a nice party as well, usually in January. And then we have a type of physical type of activity once or twice a year. So we've been hiking, we went paddleboarding last week, yoga, Pilates, just something for us to get together and do something and have fun. So that's PWN. About the Business Expo, I just mentioned briefly, so I'll tell you a little bit more on the history. We want to be able to give value to our members, even in difficult times, and COVID was certainly a difficult time. So last year we said, okay, let's try to do something. Let's bring together our corporate partners, our entrepreneurs, and have them present in a quick format that then they can get together and talk about, ask each other questions, and so on. So this was the genesis of that event. This is our second event, and it is much more. As you can see, we divided into these different pillars, which we consider to be the 3 things that were important in our area. So, for example, the first pillar, which I will introduce you to, is Suprema, is dealing exactly with everybody's challenge of how to communicate in this new era. But we are a region which turns a lot on tourism and travel. So it's very important for people to understand what's changed in that industry. This is our first pillar. We also, as part of our membership, we have many people who are entrepreneurs, and we would like to help them understand, well, what's changed in this era, this post-COVID era? How is entrepreneurship different? We've had people who've been forced into being entrepreneurs because they might have lost their business or their job in the corporate world, or because they followed someone down here. There's many reasons why people decide to start a new business, and COVID accelerated that churn. So we have some very interesting panelists who can talk about that and who have successful businesses and who can explain how they've developed that down here on the Côte d'Azur. And then the final topic that we have is on leadership development, because all of our members, regardless of whether they are in corporate jobs, whether they are students or entrepreneurs, they want to develop. They want to develop their capacity to lead. And we have a speaker from the Center for Optimism who is our partner on this point. So in terms of the structure, the event, it's very structured in terms of these topics. So feel free to connect and disconnect. If you don't interested in one of the topics, you can just look and take the timing for the topic that interests you. So as I mentioned, the structure is one keynote speaker, 3 pillars with quick 10-minute presentation for each keynote speaker for each pillar, panel discussions among the people for that pillar, and then questions for the audience. And then right at the end, there is networking. So just a few housekeeping, courtesy type rules. It's a quite fast moving event. So please put your questions in the chat and we will answer them. There'll be dedicated question and answer time after each pillar. Also keep your microphones off so that we don't get some interfering noise. And at the end of each pillar, we'll have a poll. So you can respond to the poll by selecting the answer on your screen. And this is completely anonymous. So it's just for our internal use at PWN to see, you know, how you felt about a topic, was it useful to you, and so on. So just a reminder, this is a recorded event. So if you don't want to be recorded, just please turn off your camera. And the networking event at the end is open to everybody. It will also be split up into the 3 pillars of travel, business, entrepreneurship, and leadership development. And we'll have a 4th room for membership for people who are interested to find out more about membership of PWN. And we love reactions. So please feel to use the reactions button and to share your reactions with us. So talking of our speakers, as I mentioned, pillar 1 is about the reinvention of travel. What is the new challenges, if you like, and way that companies in the travel industry are reacting to that. Pillar 2 is about the entrepreneurial journey with Marcel Dridge, who is the Business Angels president and also a board member for the European Business Angels. And then pillar 3 is on the topic of leadership development. And again, networking at the end. So with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, who is from Thales, Alenia Space. And she's answering the topic which we all are learning how to deal with in the COVID and post-COVID area, which is how to combine the best. How do you combine the physical and virtual worlds and put it together to give people the best possible experience. She is a new business initiative manager at Thales, and she's working on missions that will change space as we know it, which is amazing and exciting. And she's a prominent TEDx speaker from Cannes. So with that, I would like to hand over to Sabrina.
I hope it works and you can hear me fine. Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the nice introduction. So good evening, everyone. It is a real pleasure for me to be part of this event today, the virtual business expo, kindly organized by the PWN of Nice Côte d'Azur. Thank you very much for having me. So I am Sabrina Diapan, as I was mentioned. I am a new business initiative manager at the Thales Alenia Space, which is the space division of the Thales Group, and we are in Cannes. So it's actually for me first time having to do this kind of intervention. So I hope I'll be able to convey the right messages, especially it's the end of the day. So I hope I'll still be managed to get you inspired for today, at least. So I'll be giving you a little talk about something that I think we all need in our professional life. And we probably needed to enhance and extend it, especially this last 2 years after everything that happened, which is our communication skills. I think we can definitely say that the way we do business has changed. So we had to stretch our abilities to find a way to adapt ourselves into this new environment. So actually, initially, I'm a telecommunication engineer. So really, I can talk about communication from a very technology and technical point of view. I started working 8 years ago in Thalassania space, and it was on one of the most amazing mission ever made in Europe. It is called ExoMars. So it is a two-part mission. It was first an orbiter, a space vehicle that was launched 5 years ago in 2016, and that is orbiting around Mars currently. And there is a second part in that mission, which is a rover. It will be launched next year, and the goal would be to be on the surface of Mars to drill, analyze the soil, and check if there's any life traces there. So quite an exciting mission. So my first job was actually to work on the communication subsystem of the orbiter. So this spacecraft has instruments on board that can actually check and analyze the Mars's atmospheres. But most importantly, one of the main goals of that space vehicle was to act as a communication relay between the elements that are on the surface of Mars, which can be rovers, landers, and things like this, and Earth. So assuring that communication. So it was a key element of the design. And this is something I actually got to understand as I actually became an architect of this telecommunication subsystem for the satellites. And it is actually, I was working on the architecture of how to design this system on the future space missions. Some of them actually were future at that time, but have become true now, which is actually really nice. So it's actually exciting missions like to go to the moon, to Mars, to the moons of Mars, and so many other places in outer space. So a lot of fun. Especially I was talking about doing things on moon. Actually, we are currently building a station around the moon. So which is to say that sometimes you work on things and they become true. So which is a good thing. After that, I've done actually working on from a more technical point of view, I took another path into the project management, where I got to experience another kind of communications, more down to earth, I must say. And more recently, in the last year, actually, I started a new job, which is my current job at the strategy team of my company as the new business initiative manager. So it was right in the middle of the COVID crisis. And usually for my job, I have to travel a lot, and I am supposed to be working half of the time in another country. So needless to say, it was a bit compromised and complicated. And taking this new job was quite a bumpy ride. Let's just say not only you have the usual uncertainties because you are starting a new job, but also with new ways of working. I think we all experienced that with new people. So it was double worrisome, I think. And the quick question that I kept asking myself, and then I really tried to answer also, was how do I create a trusting professional relationship in a virtual world, mid-COVID and post-COVID? So it was really, I think, me who was understanding all about communication from a very technological point of view. It was like understanding more from a human point of view, what do we do? And I'm not saying it's completely new, because we live in a global world, and where we are actually used to doing business remotely. So it's not something completely new, but still somehow this was different. And for me, it was a real challenge. Thanks to all the tools that we have right now, actually. And actually, I can also say thank you to the satellites we built, because that enable us to connect with each other anywhere and everywhere. So we can convey our messages like I am doing right now, actually. And but is it really exactly the same doing this virtually? So in a business relationship, especially with your customer, I truly believe that meeting face to face unlocks something. It sparks trust. And otherwise, it's like they are unicorns, you know. So it is definitely a key part of business development. especially when you're working on new things like I am, new business developments. And I think, as I said, it's true for any kind of business in general. So what I found myself doing, and I think that was the only way to cope for me, was actually to really remain true to myself. And because in the end, you realize that people, they seek transparency, and having to do this virtually required even more for you to be transparent. Actually, it's just as easy as that. And so I'm not saying it's necessarily developing soft skills. Well, I don't really like that term soft skill, because what does it mean really? Soft skill versus hard skills. It's just skills, human skills. And it's not something that we usually do by design when we design telecommunication system. So it's something that we all have, and that makes us a person, and that we can stretch as a skill and master in situation where we need to adapt ourselves. And this is something us humankind know very well how to do it. And I'm not only saying that because I work in space, but it is something true to really all kinds of domains, and that we all have to face. So to draw one last comparison with what I do, in space, we first started to send satellites close to Earth, then a little bit further, then a little bit further. And then we reached the moon, and then we went to Mars, to Venus, to Mercury, to the Sun, Jupiter, Pluto, and even out of our galaxy. And we still managed to get a communication signal, by the way. So it's quite incredible. And then we sent people. And we know that very well in the International Space Station. Currently, we have our great Thomas Pesquet, and we can see him chat live. I think recently we saw him chat live with Coldplay, and sharing some amazing views that he sees from up there. So, and as I was saying, we are also now developing a station around the moon. Maybe in the future we will get to see a live music show, who knows, with a worldwide band like Korean bands like BTS or something like that. So it's just to say that space is really accessible now, and we can definitely imagine a whole new ecosystem of space, and connecting and communicating with each other. And with some latency sometimes, because it's not the same. It's not like you have live. Sometimes when you're on moon, you cannot really see everything really in real time. But anyway, it's still great that we can do that. And but the messages, they still get through. So what I want to say is that we always find a way to explore beyond our wildest imagination, and our ability to adapt and evolve is what enables us to go further. So that's why now I also work on an amazing space robotics mission that will change the world as we know it, and we'll have a whole new range of skills in the future to do. But that is for another story. So thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Sabrina. It was really interesting. Can I please ask you why? Why are you passionate about this sector of activity?
I think. Thank you for the question. I think that especially in the recent time, I noticed that for me it was obviously something that I have been. Let's just say passionate about since I was a little kid. So space is. I think space obviously makes us all dream at some point, but for me it was really something that was really like really intriguing and curious, and understanding someday that we could do all that in space, and I wanted to be part of the people who would make a difference, and being able to do something in space. So growing up, that was really my dream for that, and also pushing the boundaries. A lot of people you talk about who always say they work in space because you can imagine things also from. I'm an engineer to start with, so imagining new missions and always pushing ourselves, creating new technologies to enable us to go further. And now I'm working on robotics mission, which, can you imagine, you can have AI and all these kind of things implemented. And so it's really about pushing as much as we can the boundaries of what we can do. And this is as a passion now. And I always say now that I think I have the best job in the world, in the best place in the world, because Thales is actually right in front of the sea, and we work on amazing space missions. So definitely, I'm really happy to have chosen this path.
Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much for this inspiring experience. I think it's a very interesting sector for all of us, and so I think that we can start moving forward in our program. So let me just share the screen about related to Pillar 1. So can you see it?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So we are moving forward in our program. We are starting our Pillar 1, which is dedicated to travel. As Amanda explained, we selected travel because it's a very important activity for our region, for the French Riviera. And it is also a very important economic activity, which hugely impacts on our businesses and also on our social life. So we know that since last 18 months, this activity has been sharply impacted and reshaped. And we are happy to invite Christophe Defayet, from Amadeus as a keynote speaker to explain us what is the future of travel. So Christophe has a very strong background in managing travel technologies, which provide a very important support to the whole travel ecosystem. So please, Christophe, you are based in London, so thank you so much to joining us, and I'm happy to pass the word to you.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Here we go. So thank you very much. It's a real honor for me to be here today, and I'd like to thank PWN for inviting me, because diversity is close to my heart and a strong value of Amadeus. But that's not the topic of today. And despite Sabrina's talk was very inspiring, I'm afraid you won't like it, but now we'll come back on Earth. So today I'd like to explore with you why we must rebuild travel. And I'll start by a short presentation before a discussion with our industry leaders panelists. The travel industry is an industry that I really love since 20 years, and that actually has constantly reinvented itself. The question is, so why more now? But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Christophe Defayet, and as you can guess from my French accent, and I'm based in London, yeah, that's true. And I've been working for Amadeus since 20 years in many different leadership R&D positions, like in distribution, airline IT, and since a month in hotel IT. Now, the burning question is why rebuilding travel has never been so important. COVID-19 has completely disrupted our life, and of course, the travel industry with that. With lockdowns, aircraft have been stranded on ground for months everywhere, sometimes in very unexpected ways or places. This is a situation the civil aviation wasn't really ready to deal with. So, even from a parking infrastructure, as you can see here. The planes, they are usually flying more than being parked, actually, and certainly not parked at the same time. This has a lot of implication on the maintenance of the aircraft, on the pilot certification, and so on. Also, on the hospitality side, most of the hotels had to close or reduce dramatically their capacity, either because the demand was low or because of local restrictions. And in just a few weeks, the workforce of the entire industry has shrunk dramatically. With social distancing rule, you've seen as well that a lot of events had to either be cancelled or happened in empty stadiums. And that's how we lived the COVID at the start. At Amadeus, we want to be a close IT partner to our customer as well in those difficult times. So we helped them as much as we could, first by ensuring our systems were able to cope with a level of cancellation we had never seen before, and with the massive airline schedule changes happening at a pace we couldn't just imagine. And because they love this industry as much as I do, and probably to give a bit more sense to their day-to-day life in lockdown, all my teams have been working days and nights to support all our customers over the world. And when travel has been allowed again, it was very, very different. Not only face masks became mandatory, but the rules to travel from one country to the other keep changing regularly. Airports, hotels have seized the opportunity in some countries like the UK to help with quarantine imposed by governments. And at Amadeus, we quickly realized that we should help the industry further to restore confidence in travel, helping travelers to better understand the travel regulation in terms of tests, vaccine, and helping our partners to cope with this extra verification complexity that necessitates a lot of workforce at the airports. So we've created in less than 100 days a solution called Traveler ID for safe travel that, based on your booking, shows your tailored rules, validates your travel documentation, and is fully integrated in airline digital check-in and experience. And that avoids a lot of queuing at the airports. That's now deployed quite intensively in the world. And that was the first reaction. Now, the industry is in a rebound phase, still far from the pre-COVID levels, you can imagine. But the travel industry is preparing for the next new normal. Indeed, in 2021, the UK, the US, China, Europe, and many more countries have encouraged their citizens to spend their holidays in their home countries to favor the local economy. This was called staycations, and it actually paid off as airline domestic traffic picked up faster than the international one, and large hotel chains report strong Q2 2021 results. For example, Marriott's net income surged to $422 million from a net loss of $234 million a year earlier. And hopefully, this is just the start of this rebound. How will the new normal look like? What do people expect from the future travel experience? Well, the pandemic has transformed profoundly how people expect their travel to be. They want it safer and they want it greener. Indeed, restoring confidence in travel comes with more digitalization and less touchpoints. A few technologies are emerging already, and certainly more will come. Just imagine a journey where you will be able to drop your bag at the airport without even touching a kiosk screen. That's a technology Amadeus is piloting at London Expo at the moment. You have an infrared camera that detects that your finger is approaching the screen and capture this movement without having even to tap on the screen. Your COVID safe travel application will be upgraded to tell you what are the vaccine recommendations in any country you go, malaria, yellow fever, and so on. Arriving at the hotel, the check-in will become seamless with your mobile, which then will allow you to open your room. More digitalization for a safer world. But beyond health safety aspects, more and more travelers are conscious of their carbon footprints and adapt their travel choice accordingly. That can be by favoring more staycations, discovering hidden gems in the regions, or by using different ways of traveling, like train, carpooling, and so on. And when it comes to flying, they care a lot more about the environmental impact, exactly as we do care at Amadeus. because we are also travelers like anyone else at the end. So we developed solutions with a willingness to make the traveler greener, more sustainable for the planet. For example, Amadeus Airport Sequence Manager optimized the planning of the aircraft movements at the airport runways, helping airports and airlines to reduce their operational environmental impact while taxiing on the runway. Also, Amadeus Flight Management helps airlines accurately estimate the fuel needed for a specific flight, because the accurate estimates of the weight of an aircraft before the fuel is loaded permits a significant saving in fuel burn, emissions, and economic cost, of course. Amadeus Discover helps all travel actors to offer local tailored activities at destination. This is an easy way to favor local economy and connect local leisure providers to anyone. And by the way, it will power the Allen Tour platform, the new French digital platform for tourism offices very soon. Last but not least, leveraging the cloud technology, we have some products like Amadeus Airport's common user services that helps to reduce the energy consumption at the airport building by reducing the amount of IT infrastructure you have to install on those airports. You see, we are a humble but committed actor in this race. All the industry is mobilized. Airbus, Boeing, Rolls-Royce, to name a few, are working to design planes flying hybrid electric fuel by 2030, 2035. And we see many innovations already proving that flying full electric is possible. You can recognize on this picture the Prince Albert II of Monaco, who became on the 14th of September the first head of state to fly an electric plane. He enjoyed a 30-minute CO2 emission and noise-free flight over the Principality. So now, let's reinvent travel all together. Thank you very much. And
so thank you so much, Christophe, for sharing this impactful information about the future of travel. So we will deep dive in this topic, and we have invited an outstanding panel of experts from different industries, which all compose the global travel ecosystem. So I will quickly introduce our panelists. We have invited Carole Fracchia. She is a sales director of JW Marriott. We have also invited Menno Meyer, co-founder and managing director of Phoenix Events, a destination management company based in the south of France and Monaco. And we have also invited Rosine Allené from Air France. Rosine is a director of information systems and is based in Paris. So I would like to relate to the outline of the future of travel as it was presented by Chris, and discuss how we can advance for future events that will impact on our travel. So my first question goes to Carole Fracchia, sales director of JW Marriott in Cannes. Carole, what do you consider as most critical changes that needs to be related to the customer experience of your clients from accommodation perspective?
Okay, thank you, Tatiana. Hello to everybody. Thank you to invite us to share our expertise on this crisis situation. I'm Carole. I'm the director of sales of the JW Marriott Cannes, which is a wonderful hotel located on the famous Croisette. So I invite you to come and to meet me at the hotel because we have made plenty of renovation last year. I agree with Chris. Definitely the business model has definitely changed, and we are forced to adapt ourselves. In Cannes, we have 63% of leisure business and 32% of meeting and incentive business. And both segments had changed their way of consuming and just stopped traveling last year. Fortunately, as you may have heard during this summer, with the reopening of French, European, and other international border, the destination of Cannes reached an 80% bedroom occupancy rate. We had a lot of people from Middle East, France, and Europe also, so we were very lucky with this. Some of the hotels had a record year, as if people wanted to return to normal life whilst keeping sanitary restrictions. Now, in terms of business events, we can say that some of customers are now equipped with digital tools like us today, and they can save money in doing hybrid events, even if, according to me, it does not replace a real face-to-face meeting. I think that this winter will be still difficult to handle. What we can note also is that the booking lead time has changed. We welcome last-minute domestic events in September and October. And when I say last-minute events, I'm talking in terms of weeks and not even months. And this for business events up to 200 attendees or more. We see that also that customer knows that we need their business and they want to negotiate the rates and the cancellation policy. So this is also very difficult for all the negotiations that we have with them. However, we noted also that during the film festival in July this year, not in May, but in July, international companies were present. There are some events that cannot be missed, like press junket for big movies. Some companies privatize an entire floor to welcome journalists and make the promotion of their movie. We also had a company who privatized our hotel, the Haiti Ambassador in Antibes-Jean-les-Pins, for more than 1 month for the crew of a reality show. This was really amazing. And last but not least, I would like to add also that one of our challenges is to redefine our way of promoting our destination. During this year, we were not able to travel and meet potential clients. We need to find further argument to convince our customer, the people, to come to our destination and to book our properties, the JW Marriott Cannes. I think that definitely visibility on social media is more than ever crucial. I'm working with Menno Meyer for many years now. Menno is working in the event industry. And I have a question for you, Menno. How do you relate to the changes in customer experience from your international business event organizing perspective? This is your turn.
You're on mute, Menno.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. I was saying, you may have read my lips already. You may have read my lips already. Thank you for the introduction, and I shall try to respond to your question, Carol. Yeah, my name is Menno. I'm the Managing Director of Phoenix Events. We are a full-service DMC, Destination Management Company, and are specialized in delivering event services on the French Riviera and in Monaco through the teams we've got in our 2 offices, one in the south of France and one in Monaco. We are catering exclusively to the international events market. I can only confirm Christophe's pertinent remark that aircraft were grounded and international travel came to a complete standstill. In a matter of fact, as I just said, being active on the international market, we as a company lost over a period of 2 or 3 weeks all business for the year 2020. which quite frankly was a bit of a blow because the year announced itself as a record year. Today, after some 18 months, international events are still, in comparison to pre-COVID, way below the level they should be. That said, it's not all negative. Domestic French events are back in positive and encouraging numbers. Small-scale European events are hesitantly coming back to the destination. And as it stands today, we are delivering some events this autumn, but as of March 22, things look better with confirmed events, albeit of course subject to COVID. We also noticed a change in trends for 2022 corporate events such as meetings and product launches and incentives. A shorter stay, the event's duration seems to have been brought back a little. Less large events, attendee numbers are lower. Hybrid events are being requested on a more regular basis. Large international meetings have been redesigned to a number of national or regional meetings. Organizers do not invite as frequently spouses and significant partners. The social part of the program is scaled down. The emphasis is on business. Although present during the last few pre-COVID years, an increased emphasis is being put on green and sustainable program elements. This concerns mainly the way the so-called event consumables, which are being prepared, used and recycled. Meeting material, food and beverage functions, social and/or team building, those activities, we try to respond in the most green and sustainable way. And we also provide positive response to the request to organize immersive activities. Naturally, in our role as organizer and/or coordinator, we deliver event services as per strict COVID protection protocol as indicated, or rather imposed, by the French or Monaco authorities. In responding to these trends and requirements, we deliver events, physical, hybrid, and try to recreate the human and emotional interaction. After all, events are being organized to share knowledge, to change behavior, to stimulate results, and to get a more complete and effective communication between all of those concerned. A few words to conclude on something which is for us, ambassadors and salespeople of our destinations, very important. International travel, and in particular events, it can only come back if we have the airlines offering the flights and seats into and back from the destination. As Phoenix Events, specialized in the south of France and Monaco, we make of course reference to Nice International Airport. I know, it counts for all destinations of course. We're hoping on a quick return to increase capacity, yet guaranteeing COVID-safe air transportation. And possibly Rosine is enlightening us a little bit what's going to happen with the air travel in the near future. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Menno. I am sure that you all have fond memories of your first travel by plane after these lockdown periods.
Indeed.
And see how it has become complicated to travel with all these restrictions and controls. Well, what happened? In the past decades, as you all know, I suppose, airlines focused on giving to the customer the most seamless and digital journey as possible, with the usage of internet and many self-service options at every step of the trip. All this has been disrupted, heavily disrupted by the COVID crisis because of the necessity of new controls and mostly manual controls. So today, what does the customer need if we go from a customer perspective? The customer needs to be informed in advance
of the mandatory documents and steps to get ready for his trip, adapted to his destination, because as you know, all destinations have different regulations. He needs those documents to be shared and verified prior to the travel and to be granted with an OK or a not OK to board, so that he's at OK before arriving to the airport. In case of a refusal, he needs backup solutions with complementary documents to share or support in travel replanning. Eventually, he needs to speak or meet an agent when things go wrong. But when everything is okay, time can be saved and he just doesn't need anything. So as an airline, we also prefer that our staff deals with customers who need support and add value to their journey, rather than spending their time just checking all customers' QR code because it takes a lot of time at the airport check-ins and counters. So at Air France-KLM, we have already developed some capacity in checking your sanitary pass prior to your travel, 3 to 1 day before your flight, with automatic or manual back office controls. Doing so, we will grant you with a ready-to-fly boarding card before your trip. With this service, our aim is to change the 2 days travel experience, giving to the customer the right information adapted to his flight destination and providing him with the reassurance he needs concerning the feasibility of his trip, offering the customer to anticipate the controls, interacting with him when necessary prior to travel, and allowing him to experience again the digital and seamless journey that we used to have by reducing time spent at the airport for checks. So the development of biometric technology is also raising to accelerate even more the time spent at the airport for all checkpoints, as Christophe said before. And beyond the sanitary checks, this ready-to-fly service can also be extended to other obligatory documents like immigration documents, visas, etc. So this is something that we are working on also. So along with Amadeus, we work hard to find the best solutions of standardization and automation to increase the efficiency of the controls, because every government, every countries have different rules. Also, when you come from Europe or when you come from Africa or India, it's not the same rules, so it's very complicated. So it really needs to be automated. And last but not least, all these solutions are also a way to develop a sustainable travel topic in which AF-KLM and Amadeus are fully engaged, as Christophe said a little bit before too. So this pre-travel interaction with the customer will now be the key change of the future travel experience.
Okay, thank you so much, Rosine, and thank you so much, Menno and Carol, for your interesting comments. We have one question from our audience. So what is your expectation in terms of speed of business and personal travel rebound, and is there any difference? I would like to address this question to Rosine. What is the visibility that we have currently and the provisions that we can count on?
Well, actually, we don't have a crystal ball on the future of the evolution of the COVID crisis. Will it come back? Will it go lower? Will vaccinations be efficient on a long period of time, etc.? And so it's very difficult to imagine what the day of tomorrow will be. But what we then have to do is accelerate the change, accelerate our capacity to adapt our flight schedules for example, because if a country has to be closed, we have to stop all the flights in a very short time. We have to adapt to the new regulations and contours. This is why we really need an automatization and a standard, an overall world standardization on the regulations, on the sanitary passes, on the what is accepted everywhere. And then, well, we all hope to recover from this crisis as soon as possible. But today, IATA thinks that we will reach the 2019 traffic level, I mean worldwide traffic level, only in 2025. So we still have hard times to live, unfortunately.
Okay.
If I may add, that's true that nobody has a crystal ball, and we can't predict the future. But what we see, and that's, I want to insist on that, is that the difficulty to travel at the moment comes from all the restriction, the border restriction, the tests and so on. And that's true that with our airlines colleagues, we are trying to make that easier for the customers. But what we've seen is that at each time a country is removing those some of the restriction or reopening some of the border, then you see a boost in the travel, and that happened actually in the UK last week when they removed one of the tests needed to enter the UK. Yeah, there has been a boost for the half-term holidays in end of October. That has been crazy.
Okay, so thank you for this comment, Christophe. And so I would like to thank once again all our panelists, because I think that we have provided a very interesting perspective from different points of view of our of different industries. And Christophe, in order to conclude, so what would be your most well, visionary insights?
I'm not sure I'm a very good visionary, but yes, I mean, what we can see here is that we have a very interconnected industry, and there is right now a very important need of collaboration. The COVID situation is an accelerator to provide more integration, to create frictionless journey. And to conclude, I think there are many learnings from the crisis we went through, and we are still learning actually. First, the innate love for people for traveling. We have seen that as soon as the border regulation were easing, people went back to travel, as I said. The need for collaboration. Again, to improve the traveler's journey, we need to work all together in a more integrated way, breaking up the siloed approach we have today. Speed of the innovation, that's an important aspect as well. We need to be ready to offer innovative product, allow the industry to respond to travelers' evolving expectations, and the need for a sustainable approach. The rise of local tourism that we have experienced during the crisis is an important shift, and we are more experience-oriented today, and the activity providers will need to be more organized and digitalized in the future. That's how I see the future of the travel.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much, Chris, for this envisioning insights, and thanks to all our panelists. Thank you to Carole. Thank you to Menno. Thank you to Rosine. And we will now proceed to a very quick poll. Only one question, so you will see it will appear on your screen. It's important to us to have feedback. And I remind you that at 7:30 we will have a networking session, half an hour, and we have a specific pillar, a specific breakout room about travel. So please feel free to join. So now we are moving forward to pillar 2, which is about entrepreneurship and business, which is a core topic for our association. Let me just share the screen. Okay, 1 second.
No need for the slides, Tatiana. I have only 8 minutes. So
let me introduce Marcel Dringe is our keynote speaker for entrepreneurship pillar. Marcel is a very has an incredible experience in different aspects of sales and marketing in IT technologies. And Marcel is a president emeritus of Sophia Business Angels and board member of European Business Angel Association. So please, Marcel.
Thank you, Tatiana. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are. I'm in this beautiful town in Nice. It's blue sky outside my window. So please, all of you who are in the gray area, like UK and Netherlands, come and join me. I'm not selling the Côte d'Azur, by the way. My background, I'm a Cisco executive. I came into a Cisco system through an acquisition. I was an entrepreneur. And inside Cisco, I became an entrepreneur and very involved in the M&A team as well, in the telecom industry. Me and Amanda go all the way back to the Alcatel days. So I was very inspired by our friend Sabrina from Thales when she was speaking about ladies in space. Anyhow, Sophia Business Angel has been around in Sophia Antipolis for about 20 years. It was initiated by our friend, dear friend who just passed away, Senator Pierre Lafitte. And guess what? From a lady, a very, very famous lady entrepreneur. So I think you should look at Candace Johnson profile. She's the one who launched the biggest, largest network of satellite in the world back in 1988. And she had to fight Monsieur Mitterrand and Helmut Kohl at that time because space was a bit threatened by the political agenda. And she managed to be resilient. She managed to push back. And right now she's doing very well. So she's very known as Satellite Lady. So for me, she's absolutely an amazing, inspired lady. And she's my mentor, she's my coach. And when I left Cisco in 2013, guess what? She said, come and check us out down south. I know Sophia Antipolis for many years. I've been working for Cisco and other US startups that I brought into the region. And I joined this club. What did I notice? Shame on us. We only have 3 ladies on the board of Sophia Business Angel. Today, Candace is our current president. She comes and goes. She's the one behind the European Business Angel Network. This is the voice of all the investment club across Europe. And we lobby the EU Commission to release funds for entrepreneurs. I'm delighted to speak on behalf of women. Maybe you think this is strange, but I have no choice. My mom, God bless her in heaven, she empowered me to be a successful intrapreneur. I have a good studies thanks to her. And I have 3 beautiful ladies, girls, as daughters. And one of them is doing very well in opening a startup incubator of Michael Bloomberg in New York, in Brooklyn. So you can see I'm very proud to be connected to the ladies and especially empowering them. One of the figures that I can share with you today, despite COVID, I guess, a couple of things. This is what I want to share with you. The stat shows that the American Association of Investment, called the Association of Business Angels of the USA, only 22% of their membership is women, which is an amazing number, 22% of all the money, multi-billion dollars that goes into the startup. Shame on us in Europe, it comes down to 14% regarding the IBAN numbers. We have 14% only in our 4,000 clubs of European business angels are women. And again, we're based in France. That number goes down to 5%. I did hear some of you talking about Femmes Business Angel earlier on. This is the French club, mostly concentrated into Paris. So I'm gonna give a challenge to my friend Amanda, Tatiana, and the whole PWN Nice. Please, please, please try to have an initiative in having a woman business angel club right here. We're connected to PACA Angels. We know very well the ecosystem from Monaco all the way to Aix, Toulon, Marseille, Nice. And this is missing badly. From an entrepreneur perspective, I only have to say, when I'm listening to pitches at Sophia Business Angels, we invested about north of 60 million euros in the last 15 years in 300 different projects. You can check our website, sophiabusinessangel.com. And if you're interested on the IBAN, it's iban.org. What you're going to find out is when an entrepreneurs come and pitch at us, the nice thing about Sophia Business Angel, we're looking at an entrepreneur, at an entrepreneurs. We don't say she's a woman. We don't make any big deal about it. So the way where I sit, and I'm really delighted that this type of event is happening, I will give a couple of hints. It's all about the power of network. Why is that? Candace, and I'm going to be sending you on the chat, I hope that I can upload the file I sent to Tatiana, unless Tatiana can share it. Candace Johnson just made it into the Fortune magazine yesterday as being the most powerful lady in space. But the good news, there's two other ladies based here in the South Coast. That is part of the same article. And what I'm going to say is the power of the network. What Candace says, I'm invited by the EU Commission to speak. I'm invited to France Angel yearly assembly. I go to Cambridge University and have a speech. Well, guess what? Because I'm everywhere, sometimes I cannot. The first thing she does to replace herself, she would never call a man. She's very connected around the world. She always called a woman. So that's, for me, it's a very inspiring way of using the power of network. So network, network, network. The other thing we've learned from my humble experience selling to the big telecom of the world and being an investor today is trust. You know, when I look at PWN Nice right now, I think when you connect to the membership, in establishing the regular business and the fun way of doing things, try to look at the trust element, because trust is really, really, it's key to it. I'm going to stop there. And Tatiana, you gave me 8 minutes. I'm a very passionate speaker. I can speak forever, but all I can say, power to the girls, power to the ladies, and more than happy to connect with you. I will invite you, if you're around, the 18th evening, which is, I believe, sorry, the 15th next week. We're doing a Sophia Business Angel dinner investment where we're going to have a couple of ladies pitching their projects. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marcel. Thank you for this inspiring speech, and thank you for your dynamism, because I think it's a crucial characteristic for our activity and for our world. So to move on our panel, let me introduce you our panelists. So we have 4 panelists this time. So we have Antonia Beauvoisin-Brown. Antonio is a CEO of Kidoland, and a school of English lessons, very well known on the French Riviera and very established business. Then we have 2 representatives from EDEC Business Incubator. We have Sylvain Pagès in charge of Business Incubator, and we have Sumaya Benbeya, a startup enabler. And also we have Jill Blumenfeld, who brings us an additional knowledge in management of business plan projects. So my first question goes to Antonia. So Antonia, you have a very established business, which is a kind of reference and legend, we have to say, we have to admit. So how do you, how do you meet the challenges that the context is imposing to us?
Well, Tatiana, thank you very much for inviting me to talk and share the impact that's happened to us smaller entrepreneurs here on the Côte d'Azur. I've got a small international team of about 20 teachers working with me across 3 language centers. And in March 2020, I'd just come back from San Diego, actually, from a conference where I'd been planning the idea to start an online English teaching academy. Within a week, I closed Kidulland's doors to everyone for security, and the online academy became a fast reality. Getting operational was key to me, so we had 72 hours to set the tech up, train my team on how to deliver course content with this new funny video software called Zoom, which no one had heard of back then. By the Monday, we were operational and we had 250 kids online on our programs, and the academy was good to go. So the team, even though we're a small little company, we showed agility straight away, and that was celebrated time and again by all our clients who really were looking for a little bit of continuity in their lives when the pandemic hit. And staying operational was key to funding our substantial monthly outgoings, because I believed it was core in retaining my team, many of whom would probably have left France and gone back to their home countries if they hadn't had an income to rely on every single month. So nowadays, to reduce the rework as we're moving forward through the pandemic, we're actually having to plan all the time so that we can pivot between in-person classes and going online if we need to. We've had to change our model. Our model now caters to the constantly changing COVID protocols. So class sizes that get bigger, then get smaller, distancing. And we've also had to adapt a lot to absorb all the increased cleaning and all the PPE costs. But one of the biggest things that we as small entrepreneurs have had to factor in is employee retention, particularly in education. It's been a huge issue. There's been so much pressure in education, and people sort of sitting at home thinking, what do I want to do with my life? It's been a real crisis in this time that we're living in. Back in the 1930s, I think do you remember the Great Depression? Well, now we're right in the midst of the Great Resignation. And education has been under so much pressure through the pandemic with all the protocols that people and teachers are really taking stock of their lives and looking at what is important to them and what's their purpose. So that's at the forefront of someone like me running a small business. I've got to be agile and pivoting, but I know that that's really tiring for my team. So boosting team morale has been essential in the small business world. So we're using like mini events and apps and workshops to keep our team knitted together, healthy food baskets when they're at work so that they can get brain boosts. The lack of new talent down here in France has also been a huge challenge, because I've been conscious that pre-pandemic, I had a massive pile of CVs. No one has been coming to France from the Anglo countries due to all the lockdowns. And this has been compounded by Brexit for us. Since January, it's meant the British haven't been relocating here either. And I really need native speaking teachers to deliver our class content. So the pressure really is on us all to keep the current team really happy, retain where possible, but also attract new team members with packages, financial incentives to cover all the extras that our team need to do through the pandemic, and keep that fun training, those workshops and the communication going between the teams so that everyone understands that Kidulland looks after its team. Teachers are the lifeblood of what we do in my business. And so one of my core pandemic roles moving forward into 22 is going to be widening up my teacher funnel and making sure that I get that pile of CVs up really big again. So I'm very taggable on social media. If anyone listening here knows anyone who'd be a great fit on my team, do tag me and get in touch. And if you're wondering if our academy is still operational, well, it's having a well-earned break right now, but we are going to be developing it and moving to a more hybrid system next year. For now, we're just enjoying being back in the classroom again with our students, loving this new normal, and we're just really making the most of that right now. So voila, that's a little check-in from the small businesses here in the Côte d'Azur for us in the educational world. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Antonia. So I would like to focus my next question on the entrepreneurial journey. And I would like to address this question to Sylvain. If you could please explain us what is the business incubator and how what it is the role and the structurally how it can help the entrepreneur nowadays.
Yes, hi. Yes, indeed. I'm basically in charge of the incubator here for the EDEC Business School here in Nice on the campus and in the region. Well, basically, what is an incubator? I think we'll discuss that a bit more later on. But in a nutshell, the idea is that it's an entity with the purpose of helping people, in our case, it's students and former EDEC alumni team and community, with an idea to transform that idea into a project, and then this project into a company. Because an idea is very nice, you can have hundreds every day, every minute, but then the project is much more than that. You get all the dimension there. And the company is even the next step. So the idea of an incubator is basically helping you guys when you have that idea to basically follow this, as you mentioned correctly, this journey towards the company. That the purpose of an incubator. And well, if I may say a word here regarding the trend we've seen regarding women in entrepreneurship, just sharing a word there. It's really a trend, a massive trend we've seen over the years, with more and more of the public coming to us from that half of the population, important part, and we've seen some major successes here at EDEC with Yuka, for instance, which is one of the applications led by one of the former students. We've seen many companies created by one or even two ladies there, and it's working very well. I think there's no more no more shy or whatever here in going there. I think that's very important. And that's on one hand, on the startup side, I think we have a good dynamic there. And on the other hand, we see that investors, as it was already mentioned here by Marcel, investors are very, very keen in understanding that, and they will check this. They really want to see diversity there. They want to understand how you have that diversity into the company, because this is really an added value. So it's really a point that is being focused on by the investors. And basically us as investors, as an incubator, sorry, what is our role here is to basically fuel this energy that we see on the startup side and on the investor side for more diversity. And I think that's one of the things we do at EDEC on our side. Just one figure here is we have roughly between 35 and 40% of the startups led by women. I think that's one of the highest rates, at least in Paris and Station F. And we've seen a number of contracts and charters like the Sista one leading for even more actions and commitment in that direction. So I think that's our role to do that.
Okay, thank you so much, Sylvain. And I would like, now that we have a general description of what business incubator is, I would like to address the following question to Sumaya. If you can just explain us in a nutshell, how do we apply, and what can you get from an incubation program, and how do you do it in practice?
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you. So actually now, if we have, entrepreneurs within our audience and they're asking themselves the question, should we go through an incubator to launch our business, our startup, or not? So let me share with you a very brief story, a real story I had that can maybe answer this question you have. So when I was part of an incubator called Founder Institute, it's the world's largest incubator in the Silicon Valley. So I was program manager with them, and we had this founder called Adam. So Adam spent 3 years launching his business, and he completely failed doing it. So he said, okay, I'm going to join Founder Institute to launch my business. He joined one of our cohorts for 4 months, and again, he failed launching his business. Then he joined again for a second cohort of our incubator, and now he got acquired by Jumia. His name startup is Vint. So why am I sharing this story, and what's the core added value I believe a program, an incubator program, can give you as an entrepreneur? It's actually failing fast. So if your business is not having a market or has any challenge that is going to make it fail, within a program of incubation, you're going to fail fast. So in the case of Adam, he spent 3 years at the beginning launching his own startup, but then he said, actually, your main added value when I joined you is that you made me fail fast, so that I got the chance to move on and work and pivot or do whatever is needed to succeed, right? And again, if it's going to succeed, you're going to make me grow fast. So that was like really an input of an entrepreneur we had that was really interesting, I think, from an added value in general, whether you want to join an incubator or not. Now, of course, when you're going to join an incubator, you're going to have mentorship. So mentorship is like most of the time, they bring, entrepreneurs that had previous experience, serial entrepreneurs, and they can share with you hands-on experience. And that's how you can optimize the learning, learn from their failures, learn tips, hands-on experience that can help you grow faster in that sense. So mentorship is one. But here I want to tell also entrepreneurs that sometimes you find yourself being mentored by 2 different people and they give you 2 opposite feedbacks, right? So does that mean that incubators are just bullshit? Well, here it's always about the founder, right? So you get a lot of feedback, you get a lot of mentorship, you get resources, but at the end of the day, it's you that decides. You're going to have 2 different point of views. You're going to analyze them, you're going to decide for yourself. But having access to those resources is the added value, right? It doesn't mean you're going to be looking for people to make decisions in the view, but it's just enlarging the perspectives of resources you have. So this is one, right? 2, network. I think everyone is saying that, and Marcel mentioned that too. And it's a great added value, especially if you're an incubator that is all over the world. You're going to have access, helping with business development, access to investors, access to other entrepreneurs that might be co-founders later on. But again, here, it's depending on you and what kind of quality relationship you will be building with this network to be able to count on it or to be able to leverage it, right? So remember that you have the resources, but it's all about you at the end. So if I had to answer this question like briefly in one sentence, I would say a program, an incubator program, will be an enabler for you. So you're going to facilitate your journey, but it's always about you at the end of the day, right? For Adam, for example, it was a change miracle for him. He knew that he might be failing when he joins an incubator, but he sees that failing fast is a very interesting added value, right? Now to answer the second part of the question was like, what's interesting to point out when to be selected by an incubator, right? Especially like big incubators that really have interesting perks to give. So I believe from my humble experience that what we look at, especially in such early stage, is what we call entrepreneurial DNA, right? So some people say, oh, okay, I have a great idea and they're going to judge me by my idea, whether it's good or not. There is a quote we like saying, when I was part of FI, is like, ideas are cheap, but execution is key. And the execution, what's behind it is the founder, is you. Do you have the entrepreneurial DNA to make it happen? And I'm going to give a brief example here. For example, Yahoo and Google, right? Back in the days, Yahoo started before Google, but today I think Google is the one that is used the most. So 2 kind of similar ideas, but it's the execution that made the difference. So this is what incubators, I believe, look at. And just to give hands-on advice, like if you have entrepreneurs, visit fi.co/GNA. And this is actually a research that was done by entrepreneurs, including Elon Musk, where they define what is behind the entrepreneurial DNA, so that you can take that lecture or you can take that test and see where are you at in that perspective. So hope I answered the question and looking forward to your feedback later on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sumaya. Can you please put into the chat the reference you have just mentioned?
Right now, sure.
Yeah, thank you. And I have, to conclude our panel discussion, I have a question for Jill Blumenfeld. Jill, you are a senior luxury retail expert, and you support, you provide support to mentees. So what is your opinion about entrepreneurial journey? We have covered many things, but I'm sure that you have something to add.
Thank you, Tatiana. Yes, I'm very passionate about the luxury industry, and I've had a very fortunate career of over 40 years working with many luxury brands on both sides of the Atlantic. And having worked for both multinationals as well as startups, I've really got a good idea of what it's like working in corporate and small family environments and what it takes to make success. My last role, as I'm currently retired and new to the Côte d'Azur, was as customer experience director of the Valley Village, which is a 110 store luxury shopping outlet outside of Paris. Some of you may have known it. And used to see 6 million visitors pre-COVID, and for now, since COVID, that landscape has forever changed. Last year, when I moved to the Côte d'Azur, I felt very strongly about giving back to women and supporting women in achieving their goals. Luckily, I found and connected to PWN, and I became a mentor. And from my personal mentoring experience, I've seen it's really important for the entrepreneur to have a very clear project and a thorough business plan before even considering taking the next steps to go to investors or to launch on their own. Entrepreneurs really need to test the project and see that they've considered everything from every aspect through delivery to execution, so that they have really a stronger chance for success. I also have seen that it's very important today through the different people that I've been working with, that there are a lot of opportunities that weren't important before or available before. Opportunities where the carbon imprint is less is very important today. In my particular background, where retail selling is forever changed due to COVID, and people are not shopping as much in stores, but more online, what are the opportunities that brings to an entrepreneur, whether it be in my world of retail or in the IT world of luxury shopping experience and so on. I think that requires out-of-the-box thinking. I think that women need to really take a step back when they want to make such a big change and really consider, from all these challenges that we've all lived through these past 18 months, where the opportunities and where the trends are. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jill. So, Marcel, I would like to ask you to conclude on this inspiring pillar 2, which provides us full of ideas to all of us, I'm sure.
Thank you, Tatiana. I think the theme of today's talk to all of us was around this pre-COVID, post-COVID. And to be frank with you, I laugh all the time when people are saying the new normal, because I don't have hair. And the reason why is, I guess, I've been longer than most of you when I see young, happy faces of entrepreneurs around this particular call. Year 2000, the whole NASDAQ just crashed. And guess what? There's a Chinese symbol, which is the same: crisis equal opportunities. And again, 2007, my friend Jill, remember the subprime in the US? It took 3 years for the economy to come back, 2007 to 2009, etc. So what's the difference between COVID? I think there's one element that is different. Yes, it's a crisis. All the startups that came and pitched at us, some of them crashed because they did not have that vision, they did not have that passion, and they gave up, they were not resilient. I'll include the entrepreneurs into that particular discussion. But what's changed? I think going forward, to be frank with you, this hybrid type of meeting each other, I strongly believe that coming to see you face-to-face and handshake will definitely stay there. There's no doubt about that, because that's how the deals are made on the human race around the world. The second thing is this hybrid thing. I've been using it at Cisco with WebEx. I used to run a team across 4 continents back in 2011, and I know this interaction. But I'm going to leave one food for thoughts that people are not thinking about it. From an investment perspective, from an advice to all the young entrepreneurs that are thinking to open a project, think about sustainability. I strongly believe, I think our friend at Air France was speaking about travel, our friend from Amadeus was speaking about travel. To be frank with you, I think we do have to make a collective effort to change the world. And people were talking about carbon indices, they're talking about fuel, electrical car, electrical plane, fantastic. But I'm gonna give you some food for thought as a challenge. Do you know that we're polluting the earth as we speak right now, collectively on this call? All the data centers around the world are going crazy 24 hours a day, and they're not using green technology. So watch out for the space. The data center of the world in the next 5 years will have to change. So I'm counting on you, sustainability and making a social impact, making an impact to save our planet for the next generation. I think this is the main message I want to give you. And all those lucky entrepreneurs that are going forward to put a project, I look forward to mentor you, to coach you, and to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcel. Thank you to all our panelists. Thank you to Antonia. Thank you to Sylvain, to Sumaya, and to Jill. And we are now doing a very quick poll for Pillar 2. And we are moving forward to Pillar 3. And I remind you that we are going to have a specific pillar on specific breakout rooms on Pillar 2 entrepreneurship at 7:30. And I hand over to Amanda for Pillar 3.
Thank you, Tatiana. So I would like to introduce for Pillar 3 someone who many of you are already familiar with, Victor Purton from the Center for Optimism in Australia. He's done quite a few workshops for us, which people really love. So he is our keynote speaker on new ways of thinking about leadership development. It won't surprise anybody who has listened to him before that he thinks that optimism is the key trait for inspiring and strategic leadership in the coming decade. Also joining us as a panelist is Robert Baker, who is the Disruptor-in-Chief at EDEC. He worked for 42 years for Mercer, and he is now the CEO of a consulting company where he consults in HR areas, specializing in diversity and inclusion. And myself, who you know is the PWN president down here on the Nice Côte d'Azur, but you may not know that I am also working with Victor on his board of advisors and his representative in Europe. So with that, I will hand over to Victor and let him take us through his ideas on leadership development.
Well, thank you, Amanda, and it's great to see you, Robert, and Tatiana and Marcel and Jill. That was an absolutely fantastic panel. I've come away with that full of ideas and energy. And for those of you who know where I am, I'm in Melbourne, the most locked down city in the world, and it is 4 o'clock in the morning. So those of you, anyone here been to India to the mountain called Mount Abu? Anyone? It's renowned for being the center of the largest women-led Hindu sect, the Brahma Kumaris. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's called the Hour of God. And the reason it's called the Hour of God is there's no noise. The birds haven't awoken, there's no nightclubbers out and about. So for me, this 4 o'clock in the morning time is the perfect time to join with you, to think about new thinking. But the first thing I'd like to ask of all of you, Marcel and Diana and Natasha and the like, is switch on your screens. Let's see each other's faces. Let's hear each other. Let's talk to each other. Now, those of you who are experts on Zoom, you know there's a little reaction button down the bottom. Let's start just even with a little heart. You know, a heartfelt to the last panel, a heartfelt to each and every one of the other participants. And we've had some special requests already to end with laughter yoga, but I'm not sure that Amanda is going to let us end our panel. So if you want laughter yoga, you're going to have to vote for it and fill the commentary box with, we want to end with 30 seconds of laughter. So look, the first thing I'd like you to do is to remember one thing. At the end of my presentation, I'd like you to go and graffiti the mirror. Whether you're at home or at work, particularly if you use red lipstick, and for the blokes that don't use red lipstick, I'd like you to borrow it from a friend. I want you to write on your mirror, the leader looks like the person in my mirror. What the 2020s need is a complete memory that every day, it's not the fault of the president, it's not the fault of the manager. You know, if the cleaner hasn't properly cleaned the bathroom, we can take a tissue and wipe away the little stain that we're annoyed by. But the leader looks like the person in my mirror. So I'm going to be a bit cheeky because Amanda didn't put this in our flow sheet. I'd like you, and whoever's controlling this, can you just remove the spotlight on me for a moment so that we can all look in gallery view. Again, Sabrina, Chris, Natasha, Corinne, Olivia, Celine, Dominique, Clara, Linda, switch on the videos, switch on the audio. Marcel and everyone else now switch on your audio. I want you to look into the eyes of someone handsome or beautiful in front of you, someone who appeals to you. And I want you to say out loud, the leader looks like the person in your mirror. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3. The leader looks like
the person in the mirror.
Your mirror. Now, when we do that live, Marcel, when we get back to live meetings, we've actually created romances and marriages out of that. So it's a trick for all of you. Whenever you're doing a conference presentation, break out at the beginning and just get people to look into each other's eyes, and life becomes a lot more dynamic. So look, in fact, the question that arose for me with Marcel's conclusion, when he asked about going back to normal, is for us at the Centre for Optimism, our most critical piece of research in the last 2 years has been, what is the better normal, right? You people have come through the worst crisis of our generation. Sure, it might not have been the worst crisis financially, but we've never had this death experience before. My mother, who died in October last year, she lived through World War II. She was a refugee twice. She was a widow when I was a little kid. She lived under the Allied bombing of Germany. She lived under the Soviet bombing of the Baltics, and she came through it. And when we put something on her gravestone, we put her motto, and her motto is strong and calm, I live my life. Strong and calm, I live my life. Now, the last time there was a big pandemic in France, it was the 14th century. It was the Black Plague. 1 in 4 people died. We haven't gone through that. The miracle of the 2020s is we've got 5 good vaccines. Mankind as a whole has reacted to one of the worst diseases in many centuries by collaborating, by working together, by moving to the cutting edge of medicine, the cutting edge of digital, even this, this collaboration we've got. I've got my friend David Stannard in a vineyard during harvest in France. We've got friends joining us from the Congo, and I'm here in Australia, and many of you are in France. So it is a miracle as to what we've achieved already. But I want to go, particularly as this is the Professional Women's Network, I want to go back to what is going to be your legacy, right? What are people going to put on your gravestone because you lived through the pandemic? What are your children and your grandchildren going to remember about mum and grandma? And if we go back to the 14th century, there is a book written by a woman in English called Mother Julian of Norwich. It is the oldest surviving book in English by a woman. And it was written during the Black Plague. She was in Norwich, was the center of the plague and violence. And she wrote this: all shall be well, all shall be well, all manner of things shall be well. Now, that doesn't just live in the 13th century. It lives in song, it lives in poetry. What Mother Julian built in her book, The Revelations in the 14th century, resonates to us today. It resonates in the research of Harvard, of Stanford, the American military, the Center for Optimism. It resonates because that's the contemporary definition of optimism. The belief that good things will happen and that things will work out in the end. Now, is anyone here a fan of John Lennon and the Beatles? We've got a few. John Lennon famously added to that, if it hasn't worked out, it's not the end. So what are your variations on that? What's the motto you're going to take from that? Now, I've got 10 minutes to speak. So as you know, I can speak for hours on optimism, and I love speaking for hours on optimism, but I've put in the link there. My 350-page book is free on Kindle in France and on the American website today. So the long version of my presentation, you can read in a book on Kindle whenever you like. But we're here to talk about leadership development. We're here to talk about how practically you can adopt optimism principles within the business. And the first thing we ask people to do, and it doesn't matter whether it's a board meeting, it's your own reflective period, it's a sales meeting, every 3 months or so, go around the table and ask this question: what makes you optimistic? Sorry, I'll move that across a little bit. There we are. What makes you optimistic? And I'm going to be again naughty, and Amanda, if you'll bear with me, I just want you to, given it's the hour of God where I am and there's nothing to take away your attention, I just want you to spend 30 seconds thinking about what makes you optimistic. So let's close our eyes, concentrate on the breath going through our nostrils, and answer the question to yourself: what makes you optimistic? What makes you believe that things will work out in the end? What makes you believe that good things will happen? And then when you come away tomorrow, if you've got a Friday meeting, although many companies these days don't have Friday meetings, I want you to consider going around the table at the beginning of the meeting and asking everyone in that meeting what makes you optimistic. And don't ask them about what makes them optimistic at work. Ask them the question, what makes them optimistic? Because as Marcel said, one of the problems you're going to have getting people back to the office is when I get people to answer that question, often it's the garden, it's the kids, it's being able to get lunch from the fridge at home rather than going to the cafe at the workplace. So when you answer that question, and when you get your colleagues to answer that question, you will find that there are many things beyond work that makes them optimistic. And if you can harness that optimism to your innovation, you know, David Stannard there, you know, he's got the vision guy written there. If you can harness that optimism for your business, whether it is the garden or whether it is their pets or whether there is their kids, or whether they're like Marcel and Amanda and I, we're driven by what we do at work, you understand them better. Engagement. Amanda asked me to talk about how we use optimism and engagement. And for us, and Amanda came up with the topic, but it's actually built on our original research, is the beacons of optimism. I did a project in a government tax department, and my friends in that country now hate me because they all loved a tax department that was depressed and anxious and people hating to tell other people what job they do. Right? If you work in the tax department, do you ever tell anyone what you do? No, whenever you've met anyone in the tax department, they say, I work for a government economic agency, or I work from the government. So it's not a place where you go to be happy at work. It's not a place where you get phone calls from customers saying, thank you for chasing me up for my tax. But in that department, we went around and we asked the question, what makes you optimistic? And we're big groups, and there are 5,000 people work in this tax department, and many of them had never met before. And one woman got up And she said, what makes me optimistic is my husband was cleared of bowel cancer on Friday. And everyone went, oh. And she said, the two things that got us through were faith and optimism. Now you can just imagine everyone in the room thinking, oh my God, I didn't know that she was going through this trouble and trauma. I didn't know what gets her through this. This is a woman of faith. This is a woman of optimism. And other people got up with similar stories, or they got up and said that they are optimistic because they're their grandchildren. You know, one bloke said, I'm retiring in 3 months and my grandchildren make me optimistic. But in that department, we created exactly what Amanda is doing in France in a number of organizations, and that is creating beacons of optimism. Because we said to those tax department people, don't go to coffee with the other miserable bastards who are going to bring you down. Don't have meetings with the person who's going to say, but. Go to the people who can say, we can do it. So they now have morning coffees almost every week, those beacons of optimism that spread the can-do mentality across that tax department. Now, we haven't totally transformed the tax department. There are still many people who go to the cafe and someone says, what do you do? And they say, I work for a government department. But we now have lots of people who say, I work for the tax department, and we have a very optimistic environment because we're getting revenue to do the things you need coming out of COVID. Language is crucially important in this strategic period. And so there are two things, particularly for those of you who recruit and for those of you who run front of house. I'll continue this in English, but it could be that this part could be done in French as well. And I had a lovely offer yesterday from an Arabic lady who's going to translate my book into both French and Arabic. So it'll be there in French and Arabic. But when in Australia, we give a greeting, we normally say, g'day mate, or hello, how are you? But it's always, how are you? What a useless question, because in Australia, like in France and like in Ireland, the answer is not bad or not too bad. What a bloody miserable answer. Do we ever say, oh my God, what's wrong? No, we ignore it. And for those of you who are in sales, and Marcel was talking about that earlier, for those of you who are in front of house, it's useless. So what I urge you to do, your homework for Friday is don't ask anyone, how are you? Well, and Chris is even adding the Britons, they do the same thing. Tomorrow, your homework is get rid of the question, how are you? And replace it with something that comes natural to you. What's been the best thing in your day? Or on a Friday, what's been the best thing in your week? Or on Monday, what was the best thing on your weekend? And you will find that 80% of people will give you a story of hope and optimism. Your sales conversation, your office conversation suddenly becomes positive. And it works. We've done this in prison. It was so successful in prison when the prisoners would look at the warders in the eye and say, what's the best thing in your day, Jack? After 3 months of this, they tapped the mat and said, can you come and train the general managers of prisons? Right? They wanted to know how we changed the power balance between the prisoners and the guards. And the other day I was in the supermarket, and I haven't got it with me, but I've got a bright orange mask that says, what makes you optimistic? And the lady behind the cash register said, what do you do? And I said, I run the Centre for Optimism. I'll give you this bit of homework for the rest of the day. And I said, instead of saying, how are you? What's the best thing happening? She looked a little doubtful. So I said, let's try it with the people behind us. And there was a mother and a 12-year-old. And I said to them, look, we're just doing an experiment. What was the best thing in your day? And the 12-year-old lit up and she said, I got 82 for my test. And her mother lit up and the people behind them in the queue lit up and the people around lit up. So whether you have a reception man or a reception woman in your office, whether you regard yourself as the reception man or the counter woman, Friday, the experiment, you get a refund on my speech. The 10 minutes you spent with me, you'll get a refund. I'll send you a hard copy of my book or the like if it doesn't work, but I assure you it will work tomorrow. Now, I've gone on too long. That's 10 minutes gone. So what was the other piece of homework I wanted you to do? At the end of this expo, if you've got kids at home, you've got a spouse at home, the mirror is going to have the leader looks like the person in my mirror. And given that most of us are women, red lipstick is the key. And why is it important for the family as well? Whether you've got children or grandchildren. 3 weeks ago, I had the honor of an audience with the Dalai Lama. And he was asked about teenagers and how they've got through COVID. And the person asking the question said, oh my God, they must be damaged forever. And the Dalai Lama smiled at her, smiled at all of us. He's very good on Zoom. And he said, for mothers and grandmothers, because it was a mainly female audience, but he can do fathers and grandfathers, Robert and Marcel and David. The most important thing for teenagers is to maintain their hope and optimism through the pandemic and beyond to a better tomorrow. And so I don't think it matters whether it's your kid, your grandkid, the person in the office next to you, if you're the boss, because what we say is it doesn't matter if you're the cleaner, you're the most junior worker, you're the most senior person in recruitment. It's your job to instill infectious optimism. So the last question, because I'm going to be asking Rob about this, when you recruit someone for innovation, when you recruit someone for strategy, as David Stannard would say, when you recruit someone for vision, the most critical question is, what makes you optimistic? And yet, have you ever been asked that question in an interview? Have you ever asked that question in an interview? Now, enough from me. Let me hand back to the incredibly talented Amanda Noz, because she is a beacon of optimism and she is a person who is expert in helping to create beacons of optimism across a food. In fact, I think your president wants you to be more optimistic. I think Amanda is the secret weapon.
Well, thank you, Victor. That's very nice of you to say so. So one of the questions that I was going to ask you was about seeding optimism through large companies and keeping it going, because many people in the audience have had the experience of you running a workshop for us and helping individuals become optimistic. And as you know, we also have Project Optimism, which projectoptimism.com.au I'll put in the chat, where people can actually go and learn the habits of an optimist, because habits are important around optimism. But for companies, now I honestly was a little nervous about the whole lipstick thing. I'm a bit boring. I was going to have them print them on stickers and stick them on their mirrors. I'm sure some of my partners in the audience will be happy about that option. But it's one thing to come in and to tell people how to be optimistic, to train them on the habits, but then how do you really seed it and keep it going so that you get these beacons of optimism?
Sure. It's repetitive. In fact, we're just about to do one for the most elite school in Australia. And where we're seeding it there is the optimism comes from the kids. The optimism comes from the grandkids. And a good, so I'll give you two examples to answer that question immediately, Amanda. As you know, we've been the major sponsor of the Nelson Mandela Youth Leadership Summit. And Marcel, the great benefit of going online in that is we went from being a regional conference for country kids, you know, people in remote parts of Australia, to being a global conference with kids all the way from New York to Africa, according to the time zone. And this year we had a group of girls join us from completely out of the region. They're all 14, but they now come to every event at the Centre for Optimism. Doesn't matter whether we're studying grief, it doesn't matter whether we're studying forgiveness. These 14-year-olds are spectacular because at the end of every event, they express gratitude. And they express it in 14-year-old language, and they lead. Amanda, in the prison, you know, this was the most high security prison. You know, the prisoners are murderers, they're drug traffickers, but we taught them to be so optimistic that the warders and the leaders of the warders had to acknowledge what's going on. And in this elite school, what we're going to do is we're going to have the alumni who are now chairmen of major corporations. We're going to have the 12-year-old who leads the primary school. To spread it, you need to bring people of every age and every orientation. And then the other thing you need to do is formalize it, right? Every 3 months on the meeting paper, the first question is going to be, what makes you optimistic? Now, it becomes trivial and it becomes rubbish if you do it every week, right? But it's a significant thing to do. The habits of an optimist, those of you who like it, we had a British minister tell us it was the best hour she spent during lockdown. So it takes 50 minutes, it's animated, but you'll like this. I said to her, surely it can't have been the best hour you spent during lockdown. There must be a husband or a lover. And she said, typically a woman, she said, it wouldn't have taken an hour.
Well,
Marcel's got a question, Amanda. We better let him hop in and then ask Robert Baker, because there's 50 years of experience he's going to synthesize into a few minutes for us. So Marcel, you've got a question.
No, I just want to absolutely highlight the optimism that is coming through the screen. And I relate to the prison bit, because when I was at Cisco, we initiated a prisoner becoming a consulting system engineering program. And they were inserted back into community. And that is basically a highlight of your optimistic speech. And thank you very much for that.
Oh, thank you, Marcel. No, it is wonderful. But Amanda, we've got to, in fact, Amanda, I've got to, well, let's turn to Rob and then let's come back to you, Amanda. And then we're going to get everyone to switch on again, because we are going to finish with, we promised them they'd end up laughing. So we'll need everyone on screen for laughter. But Robert, you've left a major corporation. You are famous for your inclusion and diversity. When I was looking at the friends we have in common, they are global leaders in this space. So as you are transitioning into this 2020s era of prosperity, and your passion is inclusion and diversity, what makes you optimistic, Robert, and how are you applying it in all of these organizations you run to support women and leadership?
Wow, thanks, Victor. And what a fabulous session so far. I mean, honestly, you're such an inspiration. And I think if there's nothing else I take away from this, it's, my God, I want to go home and start being a beacon of optimism, right? So I'll see if my wife notices that when I come in the door tonight. So,
Can I interrupt you, Robert? I had one chairman of a cybersecurity company who'd never answered the question, what makes you optimistic?
Yeah.
And his staff told me that night he had the staff restaurant dinner and he kept smiling at the waitress and gave her a $200 tip. So just be careful. Don't give a £200 tip tonight.
Okay, super. But I think, certainly when you asked me this question, I was thinking about where I was last week. Last week, I was hiking in the Austrian mountains with a group of people kind of my age and older, 60s, 70s, all with various ailments. And what was really inspiring and made me optimistic was that just a human way that we basically connected with each other, all different nationalities and stuff like that. But we looked out for each other when we were doing our hiking up these mountains that were like 2,000 meters high, and you just really felt how human beings can lift each other up. They can inspire each other, they can celebrate. And to me, that's in a sense what makes me optimistic, because I think there's a huge part of human nature that does want to do that positive stuff. And what I love about the work you're doing is encouraging us to focus on the positive aspects of human nature, rather than, let's face it, there are some negative aspects as well. And so for me, that was a big thing that really influenced me. So what I'm looking for now really is to bring that kind of personal optimism into organizations. And as you know, I'm working in diversity and inclusion. And for me, I hadn't thought about it before, but it really now does become pretty obvious that actually, if we want to build a more diverse and inclusive world, then we need to bring optimism into what we're doing. Because I think basically we will make faster progress if we're looking at it in a way where we're open to the influence that everybody can bring. And I think one of the joys of diversity and inclusion to me is it's that recognition that everybody has got something to bring and everybody can support each other. We can help people feel engaged. We can help them feel they belong. And it's really clear to me that leaders have a huge role to play here. So the thought that, for example, I'm going to try and be an optimistic leader and really develop my pitch on why others should be optimistic too. And hence my question to you about, as a leader, how do I engage the pessimists, the ones that don't get it yet, or should I even try to do that? So I think in organizations, we are trying to develop diversity and inclusion by, reaching out to people that don't maybe just get it, but build on the ones that do. So anyway, that's the kind of thing that I'm thinking about. And I think it's very clear that there are positive factors out there that give me huge source for optimism. One is about, we recognize now how much diverse talent brings to organizations, the different thinking and the innovation that they bring. The fact that we're now recognizing that customers are more diverse than ever before, and that organizations should really focus on more diverse customers. And even investors now are starting to recognize that diverse companies perform better. So for me, those elements give me a huge source of optimism that companies are going to start taking diversity and inclusion more seriously than they've ever done before. And I think they're going to need optimistic leaders to help build that, drive that. And so, any tips you've got on how we engage those that are a bit less optimistic would be really helpful.
Just a quick one then on that. Well, exactly. Amanda worked with me on this a few weeks ago. We did an hour of optimism for the water utility sector. Now, the water utility sector is normally, cautious engineers and, renowned for its dourness. But we got 3 chairs of corporations and 6 CEOs. And we did rapid fire. What makes you optimistic? How have you kept the team optimistic during COVID? People were so uplifted. And we're going to do a breakout, as we're going to be doing shortly here. And then, do you know what happened next? They said, we want one for young leaders. We want one for women leaders.
Yeah.
So the young leaders one, we had the leader of Water Pride. So that the gay people in water utilities. We had the leader of Water Able, a wheelchair bound guy who's working in customer engagement. And, often inclusion and diversity, it's, it's the pessimist who starts the speech. It's awful, we're not inclusive. To hear this gay leader talk about the way in which he is able to infect his corporation with optimism was astonishing. To hear the guy in the wheelchair talk about diversity inclusion as empowering the corporation, because 5% of their customers are, with a disability. So you can actually make diversity inclusion an utterly optimistic process by extracting those stories of hope and optimism. And, look, the newspapers and the news is full of awful stuff. But Disney is a company that gets it. Coca-Cola is a company that gets it. Their research shows that people want stories of hope and optimism.
Yeah.
So what they want when your receptionist greets them is not, how are you, not too bad. They actually want to share a story of something good that happened, something that's working for them. So that would be my critical tip number 1, Rob, and start. Let's get the people in this room to do an hour of optimism on diversity. And I'll bring in the guy from Water Able in the wheelchair. I'll bring in the guy running, Water Utility Pride, because they will infect you. And Amanda's the expert on the beacons of optimism. Any company that wants to do this anywhere in Europe needs Amanda there. And you now, you found the secret sauce for the theory of everything, Robert.
Yeah.
The secret sauce is expressed optimism.
Yeah, and one of the things I was going to quickly say was I'm really delighted to have been asked to be the diversity and inclusion disruptor in residence at edX Business School on the Global MBA program. And I've been putting my work together, because the first time we're going to do diversity and inclusion on the program. And, now optimism is going to be a much bigger part of it than ever before. So you've had a fantastic influence. And as we influence the leaders of tomorrow going out into, companies when they finish their global MBA programs, that I'd love to feel that they're all going to be feeling the love for optimism that you've generated. And now you've inspired in me. And now my job is to go and inspire it, I think, in others too.
Particularly if you teach them the science, Robert. You know, the Harvard, the American military, and Boston University produced a report in 2018 on healthy longevity. Yeah. Right? They expected it to be wealth, they expected it to be income, they expected it to be genetics, they expected it to be geography. The trait that lets you live a healthy, long life is optimism. Yeah. And the American Heart Association put together a scientific panel to answer the question, why? You know, why? Why does wearing orange jackets and colorful clothing, you know, help to make you more, you know, live longer and better? And the conclusion of the American Heart Association, it's anxiety, depression, pessimism, that literally, you know, as Shakespeare said, hardens the arteries and causes you to have kidney failure, liver failure, heart failure. So, you know, even if you teach the MBA students, and I've done now something like 3,000 MBA students because it's not something that's normally in an MBA course. Yeah, it's the secret sauce for the 2020s. And Dominic Barton, I think some of you have heard me before, Dominic Barton, who was the head of McKinsey, said to me, every great leader I have ever met is infectiously optimistic, but it's not the big man or woman at the podium. It's the person who can unlock the optimism in the team, from the most junior to the most senior. From the most experienced to the least experienced. And of course, what job has Dominic been given? He's the Canadian ambassador to China. Oh boy. He's had to negotiate the release of prisoners. But you know, if you want the man to go and do the impossible, get the Canadian prisoners out of jail who are being held for ransom by the Chinese Communist Party, you choose an optimist.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris Campos Gomez has raised this point about resilience, how there's a link between optimism and resilience. And I guess, you know, you can't teach a global MBA program without going into the stats and the evidence. So thanks for the tips on that. And, you know, I'll be looking very closely now at well-being, which is a huge topic, and optimism as a key element of well-being.
So,
Exactly. Amanda, I'm going to be naughty again, because you've got to go to breakout. But I've had a few messages already that said, are you going to be really naughty, Victor, and do 30 seconds of laughter yoga? And so, Amanda, will you let us do 30 seconds of laughter yoga?
Yes, I will. But I'd like to answer Chris's question first, just before we go to close and break out, if that's okay, because Chris was one of our volunteers from edX Global MBA program last year. So she finished her studies along with Lenka, who was our VP of Communications and Marketing at PWN. So one of the things that's interesting, Robert, is you say you hope they all leave their global MBAs with optimism. Well, certainly we work quite closely with the Diversity and Impact Club at edX. Every year we usually get a couple of volunteers. It was Chris and Lenka last year. This year I've got a few new ones who are coming through, and we also share our presentations with edX. So for example, that's how I saw you gave a presentation at edX, which PWN promoted, and then the same, edX promotes our presentations. So I think that's one way for students to get a dose of optimism, is to come and volunteer with us, whether it's a small or big ways. It's a nice way for them to learn some of the things that we do with Victor's Centre. And then the other thing that I just would like to finish up with before we go to the breakout rooms. So firstly, thank you very much both to Victor, who got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do this and showed just wonderful energy. And I promise I won't forget the laughter. And to Robert, who joined us from England. One of the things that I'd like to just talk about as we go into the close and as we go into the breakout rooms is at the Centre for Optimism, we do a lot of primary research, and we also look at the secondary research. So just starting with some data for everyone in our audience, because I'm very happy we have a balanced audience. It's not all men, it's not all women. There's a mixed audience to this event. And the Kedge School of Business at Harvard found that companies with mixed boards perform better, but not just with a token diversity of just one person, but real diversity. And Robert already mentioned that if if you have diverse groups, then they are going to be better able to serve a diverse customer base. You know, just out of interest, women make 80% of the buy decisions in the US. So maybe it's a good idea for companies to actually have people making decisions who know how to satisfy what women want. McKinsey and the Women in the Workplace report, and also PricewaterhouseCoopers, they found that heterogeneous groups outperformed homogeneous groups. So think about using that as a starting point, that mixed groups are good. And, you know, as Marcel said, in France, the number of women entrepreneurs is really low. So think about that when you're putting groups and projects together. And then there's a quote that I'd like to give you, and some of you will laugh at this quote. And it's basically, senior women often say that you need to work twice as hard to get half as far. And that doesn't sound very optimistic, but there are many reasons for this. It's that a typical career growth path doesn't necessarily peak at the same time for women and men because of children. So women can have time later on as their children go more independent. You also see some inherent bias, right? People hire and promote the people they're comfortable with. And people often women often go into support functions rather than having a profit and loss responsibility, such as marketing versus sales. So, you know, think about it. Where's the pathway from human resources to the CEO? So you could look at all those things and you could say, well, geez, Amanda, that's not very good. And also, women have gone backwards through COVID. They've gone backwards at least 4 years in terms of equality because of you know, the situation that COVID has posed, people working from home, managing their kids out of school, et cetera, et cetera. But that's the reality of what's happening. However, this is the thought that as the president of PWN and the optimism person in Europe for Victor, I would like to leave you with. As a woman, you can acknowledge this as a reality, but you can also be an optimist and not let it prevent you from doing what you want or getting you where you need to go. And Marcel mentioned Candace Johnson, who put the first, you know, satellite network up there. And I had the privilege to meet her a few years ago with Sophia Business Angels. And yes, she had to fight everybody from Mitterrand to the Luxembourg Prime Minister, I remember from her story, to get those satellites up in space. But she didn't stop, she kept going. And because she kept going, she achieved it. So my advice is to the women out there is, you know, don't think the world's out to get you because you're different. You can challenge the status quo. You can ask for the pay raises. You can negotiate your salary. You can take international assignments. I've been privileged to start in Australia and then come to Paris and work on the East Coast of the US and the West Coast, where I met Victor, and then back here on the Côte d'Azur. So yes, you know, take those risks and blaze a path. But don't just blaze it for yourself. Be a role model. That's what PWN tries very hard to do for people. Be a role model. Help others. Become a mentor. Advise an entrepreneur. Help a startup. Because at the end of the day, your experience, your hard work, your knowledge, it all means something. So be optimistic about what you can contribute, believe in it, and go for it. Because you will be more successful if you do so, and your company will be more successful. So with that, I will conclude this part of the conference, thanking our speakers, and I will just put up the screen for the next part.
Amanda, one thing we've got to do first is that I'm sorry, 5 of your members have said they want 30 seconds of laughter.
I was going to have you laugh while I put up the next screen, Victor, because it takes a while for the screen to come up.
No, but we need everyone watching each other.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, so Marie, Jill, Diana, Corinne, Olga, Anamata, Linda, Celine, please switch on your videos. This doesn't work unless you're looking at each other. Cynthia, Alfie, Brian, Corinne, Diane. If we can come on video now, unmute. You've got to put away all of your inhibitions. Marina, you're going to come on. Sabrina, we can't wait too long. It doesn't matter whether you're dressed and if you've got children in the background or grandchildren, bring them along because they will think you're crazy. They hear you from the other room. Right, now we have to firstly breathe in deeply, and then we are going to do 30 seconds of hysterical laughter looking at each other. So everyone on gallery view, Marcel, come back on screen. We need you. Ready? Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Oh God, I've run out of breath. I've turned red. I've probably woken up the neighborhood now, and that's probably a good thing. They can all get up and about. And Amanda, I think PWN is an utter beacon to France and the world about women leading us to a better normal post-COVID. So congratulations to all of you.
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much. Oh, where are you? There you are. Thank you very much. I lost my screen for a minute. Thank you very much, Victor and Robert and everybody else, all the other speakers and panelists, the audience who has taken the time out of their busy evening to join us. I wanted to just share with you before we move to the breakout rooms. And I'm trying to share my screen and not a lot is happening. Here we go. Are you all seeing my screen there?
Yes.
There you are.
Yeah.
There we go.
So I did, sorry about that. I just want to remind you that, as I said at the start of this presentation, next year is our 20th anniversary. We hope to have a bigger event, which will be in person as well as a hybrid event, because we love having people from all over the world. We don't want to lose that, but we do want to also have people benefit from how delightful it is down here in the Côte d'Azur region. And so keep that in mind, that around this time next year, we will have another event, and we would be very happy to welcome you back. With that, I am going to hand it back over to Carmen, a wonderful technology person who has been working in the background, and put you all in breakout rooms.
We are launching the final survey, Amanda.
Okay, thank you.
I think they go hand in hand.
Well, I just want to thank everybody. One of the things I notice whenever we have an event like this is nobody ever wants to come back from the breakout rooms. Everybody wants to still keep chatting and exchanging, and we're all like, oh, really? It's time to go back already? Which hopefully means that people are having a good time. And what we hope is that next year we can do this in person as well as hybrid and have an even better time. But I'd just like to, again, thank everybody who came. Thank you the people who spoke, the organizers, Tatiana, and the companies who support our mission for gender equality, our mentors like Jill, and hope that, we will be interacting with you again in the near future. Don't hesitate to go to our website, pwnnice.net, and just see some of the things that we do as an organization. So thank you.
Thank you. Amanda, you guys do a brilliant job, job. Hey, Linda, there's a study out of Italy for people who are